Hey guys, what's up? Just wanted to come on here and give you my thoughts on something that's been going on lately that's been making the news as of late. And I'm going to pull it up right now. And if you hear anything in the background, that is the Fiesta Bowl I'm watching. But this is something that's been, um, really talked about by a lot of people. And of course, I think the title of the video says it best. It's the entire situation with Big Swole and her time in AEW. And we're going to bring up the article right now. We're going to bring that article up right now. Um, and basically, as you know, Big Swole, um, basically, she left AEW. She was let go. Basically, her contract was allowed to expire. And yeah, she came out recently in a podcast, which I think was on her own call-in show for Swole. You know, she said speaking. Basically, this is from Fightful.com. Um, Originally reported by Jeremy Lambert. This is what Jeremy had to. This is what the article is. It says basically. It says on November 30th, Big Swole announced that she and AEW had mutually parted ways. As Swole was officially signed to AEW in December of 2019 after appearing in the Casino Battle Royal um, at All Out 2019. And May okay, it says Swole was officially signed by AEW in December of 2019 after appearing in the Casino Battle Royal at All Out 2019 and make regular appearances on AEW Dark. She was sidelined in early 2021 when it was revealed that she'd been battling uh, Crohn's disease, Cohen's disease. It says speaking on her call-in show, Swole detailed why she decided to mutually part ways with AEW. Swole began by noting that the most emotional moment she had in AEW was when Kenny Omega thanked her for what she did in the Diamante feud and how it made other women in the company more comfortable to pitch ideas. Continuing, this is what Swole said in her call-in show. She said she Swole had that moment into her final talk with Tony Kahn. Oh, wait a minute. Swole tied that moment into her final talk with Tony Kahn. And this is what she said when she tied in that moment with Kenny in her final discussion with Tony. This is what she had to say, and I quote: I explained to TK, but I didn't want. Okay, I explained to TK that I didn't want to resign because my peace was being disrupted. If anybody knows me or knows myself, if anything is disrupting your peace, it's time to let it go. It might be scared or be hard, but it's time to let it go. When Kenny said that, it was the circle coming to an end because Kenny and I would bump heads sometimes throughout my time in AEW. To end it on that note felt good. It felt wonderful to end it at a place where we didn't see eye to eye, but we were there. She goes on to talk about why she left the company and what she told them in her exit interview. And this is what she said, and I quote: um, My heart just stopped being in it as the reason why I left AEW. I felt like there was a lot of things, and I told them in my exit interview that there are a lot of things that need to change. I know fans of the company don't take criticism well sometimes, certain ones. Know this. Oh, okay. She says, I know fans of the company don't take criticism well, certain ones. Know this. This is somebody from the inside. The structure is a little off. It's fine to be loose, but I like to have a little bit more structure. I felt like the women shouldn't have gone through everything they went through just to get on TV or get time. You're signed to this big company, you should get time. All these men are getting time, but the women weren't getting anything, or you're not putting people on TV because more people are coming in. Okay, there are more people coming in, but you don't have enough product for all these people. Now you have all these people sitting around having 2 or 3 minute matches on Dark. Doesn't make me okay. Now you have all these people sitting around having 2 or 3 minute matches on Dark. Doesn't make me happy. Shoveling more money, doesn't keep a person happy. We've seen time and time again, especially in a place where there's not enough space. There's no writers in a sense. Not everyone is comfortable with writing their own things. Closed mouths don't get fed. That's exactly what that environment is. If you are shy and don't know how to write or not creative, it's not going to work unless they want to work with or work for you. That's one of the bigger issues. Okay, so what I'm getting out of this, in my opinion, is, and we're going to get into the other part in a moment. We're going to get into the one that really gets people talking in a moment. Um, but to me, what I sense with her is the fact that she feels that if you're going to, spend all this money to sign people to a contract to help grow your company, that those people, no matter who they are, no matter how good they could be, should be showcased. And Big Swole, I'll give you this, had a presence. There's no doubt. I think a lot of us felt that if it was not going to be Thunder Rosa that was going to eventually face Britt Baker for the title um, in a rematch 1 year in the making, that it would, and take the title off her potentially, that it would be Big Swole. But that's not going to be the case now. Um, so when I, like I said, when I listen to what Big Swole has to say here, I sense somebody that's kind of, and I say this with all due respect to Swole. I think what I'm sensing here is someone that's a little confused about the differences between different wrestling promotions. When you have, because when you're part of a sports entertainment oriented wrestling promotion like, let's say, WWE, they're going to give you opportunity. No matter how green you might be, no matter how much more you have to train and learn, your craft, if you have a presence and a persona, they will give you opportunity. They will give you an opportunity to shine and be all you can be. Even like I said, even if you're not that good in the ring. Good examples of this are, Eva Marie. Good examples of this are Almas, if you will. These are good examples of people, decent examples. Nia Jax again, is a good one. These are examples of people that got opportunities, got pushes, became champions in the case of Nia Jax, but they weren't that good in the ring. It was because of the personas. It was because of their look. It was because of how they presented themselves that got them those opportunities. And I think what she's doing is she's kind of confusing AEW in being in the same kind of structuring, you know, area of WWE. But what she doesn't realize is AEW, yeah, it has yeah, it has all the sports entertainment elements that, like, say, WWE has, but AEW is more of a wrestling oriented company first and sports entertainment second, while WWE is the opposite. And I think that's where she gets confused a little bit because when you sign with AEW, you're not signing just to be like, oh, I'm gonna have somebody write something down for me so I'll know what to do and everything. Da da da. No, when you sign with AEW, you're basically signing with a company that puts wrestling first and then puts the creativeness of the direction they want to take your character, or you want to take your character in your own hands. Well, WWE is very reluctant to do that unless they know the person they're going to give that opportunity to, you know, unless the person, like I said, they know they're going to give the opportunity to, can be trusted and can handle it without screwing up. So I think maybe that's what's going on because she's like, she's mentioning that there are no writers, you know, there are no writers or anything, um, to help out. And this is what makes AEW so beloved by fans and even wrestlers. That you're not relying on writers, Hollywood writers or script writers or whatever, to do your stories. They're saying they're saying, hey, this is a place where, we'll give you bullet points of what direction we want you to go in with the storyline, or we'll, talk to you about who you want to work with, but then it's up to you to make it work. It's up to you to come up with the ideas. And what it sounds like to me is Big Swole is one of these people because she says it right here that may not be comfortable with that. She may be more used to somebody writing out what the story's going to be. Um, but and she says closed mouths don't get you fed. That's exactly the environment. That's exactly what the environment is. If you are shy and don't know how to write or not creative, it's not going to work unless they want to work for you. This is one of the biggest issues. So what she's saying there is, hey, if you don't speak up and say, look, I'm not comfortable with writing my own stories, I'm not comfortable with taking bullet points and then, doing my own thing. I want help. I want you, Arn Anderson. I want you, Cody Rhodes. I want you, um, Steve Borden to help me out and everything. Help me write these stories, come up with these creative decisions. That's what she's getting at, and I think she's one. And I think she is one of those people, in my opinion, that doesn't feel comfortable with writing her own stories, or even doing her own thing based off bullet points. And when you're not comfortable with something, sometimes you will lose your lack of passion, as she put it. Now, continuing on, and I quote what she had to say and what the article had to say, it says, along with the lack of structure, Swall saw a bigger issue in AEW, and that was lack of diversity. And this is what got people talking. And here's what she had to say, and I quote, outside, outside of lack of structure, the biggest issue, which is diversity, I do not beat around the bush when it comes to diversity in my people. There is no representation truly, and when there is, it does not come across in the black community as genuine at all. I don't know why everybody is so afraid to accept it or say it, but it's not a good look. What happens is you have this wonderful company that treats people like family, but there is nobody that looks like me that is represented at the top and and in the room with them. They are not helping to necessarily okay. They are not helping to necessarily influence decisions, but to explain why certain slang and certain words shouldn't be said. There is no one else who can explain our culture and experience except for us. So what she's looking at is the fact that you have all these men and women of different races and color and all that, and nobody, not many people, if any, of of the black community or any other community, if you will, with a few exceptions, are being given opportunities to shine, you know, to um, get an opportunity to be like a champion, to be like the face of the divisions and all that. Like I said, with a few exceptions, if you will, with a few exceptions here and there. So she basically she feels that AEW, if they really want to to show that they are a family, that they are about opportunity, that they need to do more than just you know sign all these people. They need to focus on those that they got, as well as on those of different race and color, and say, for example, Swole, we're gonna make you the women's champion and go from there, or Jade, we're gonna make you the TBS champion, go from there. So I think that's what's so honestly, in my opinion, that's what she feels like. You know, unless TK can give men and women of color and different races more opportunities to be at the top, she feels that there's no glass ceiling to break through, and that's an issue that they have to address. Um, Continuing on, and I quote. This is what she had to say, and I quote. According to the article, it states that Swall continued, explaining how her daughter helped her recognize even more than. Okay, Swall continued, explaining how her daughter helped her recognize even more that there was a lack of representation in AEW. And this is what Swall said, and I quote. I knew something was up when my daughter, who loves watching wrestling, she would watch AEW all the time and seldomly watch WWE. She's not a fan unless Dad, Cedric Alexander, was on TV, which stopped happening after they botched the Hurt Business, which obviously now they're making up for. But I will agree it was a mistake on their part. She would say, Mommy, there's nobody that looks like me on AEW. There's nobody that looks like Daddy. Then she started watching WWE because she saw Bianca and Big E. She saw herself represented. If that wasn't a click, you are absolutely right. I don't have any explanation. It's 2021. Why are people saying it'll take 3 years for AEW to have a black champ? This is a scripted sport. It should not take that long if you have been watching WWE for 50 plus years and you know what not to do. Okay, so what she's saying here is it took her own daughter who loves watching wrestling to go from watching AEW to watching WWE and seeing WWE allowing people like Bianca Belair, Big E, Sasha Banks, Bobby Lashley, and all them, Kofi Kingston and everything, to being represented, at the top, for things to click, for her to realize, oh yeah, there is something wrong. If WWE of all companies, which the company I'm a part of is trying to be an alternative of, is doing a better job at representing diversity than the company I work for. You know, so what she's basically saying is, look, you can make up the excuse of, oh, it'll take time, for AEW, to have a black champion, like let's say 3, 4 years. But what she's getting at is this is a scripted sport. No matter how you look at it, AEW, WWE, this is a scripted sport. And if you've been watching WWE for 50 plus years, and you know what not to do, basically. I mean, this is what she says in closing, that this is a scripted sport. It should not take that long if you've been watching WWE for 50 plus years and you know what to do. And, she does have a point. I mean, one thing people would give WWE credit for is if they know what's hot, they know what needs to be represented, and what's going to, put them in a positive light, you know, with a lot of people, especially the right kind of people, you know, it's allowing somebody like let's say a Bianca Belair and a Sasha Banks to main event WrestleMania, or at least one of the nights, one of the 2 nights of WrestleMania, allow them to main event, close out the show because of the historicalness and the fact that it would put them positive out on a positive outlook, with everybody in between, it would. So I get where she's coming from. I get the fact that she's saying, look, it's a scripted sport. It shouldn't matter whether or not you're good in the ring. It shouldn't matter whether or not, You're not that good in the ring. If you want to prove to everybody that you're about family, you're about equal opportunities and all that, then, and you want to prove you are a true alternative, then give somebody like myself, like a Hobbs and whoever else, let them have at least a run, with the championship. Let them have a run with the title, or at least be a champion of some kind. So I get what she's saying. But here's the one thing about AEW fans, and she said it earlier. They don't like to hear this kind of stuff. They don't like to really hear this. I mean, they get where she's coming from. They respect what she's saying and where she's coming from about when it comes to equal opportunity, especially through diversity. But wrestling fans, especially those of AEW, they don't want to hear this because they don't, as I've said before, they don't want to have AEW looked at in a negative light. One fan that's truly hardcore, according to some people, is the kind of fan that basically will be like, "Oh, AEW don't do no wrong. AEW is perfect." You know, and there are fans like that, and even someone like Alex has said that to a point, that there are fans like that, to where basically, they will say that AEW is not wrong in anything they do. So again, I understand where she's coming from. I really do. I understand where she's coming from. I understand what she's saying. Um, but here's the thing. Like I said, like I said earlier, and I say it with all due respect, I think she's confusing both as being one and the same. You see, AEW fans, wrestling fans, they don't look at AEW as being a truly scripted sport or scripted promotion. They look at it as a promotion that's a true alternative of, yeah, it's scripted to an extent, but the scriptedness is unscripted. In other words, yeah, they'll get bullet points, but then, the men and women that get those bullet points and involved in major storylines, they're allowed to go off and do their own thing to help move the storyline along. So to say that it's a scripted sport in their eyes is not right, even though it's technically true. Okay, so continuing on, Swole continued on, and this is what the article said, and I quote, uh, Swole said she is quote unquote exhausted with the pandering when it comes to diversity and how it feels like quote unquote use this person for a little, they're done. Use okay, quote unquote, use this person for a little. They're done what you need. Now what's next? And then this is what Bianca, not Bianca, but Big Swole said to close out her, her statement or her interview on her podcast. This is what she said, and I quote: "I believe that the company is making better strides than before, but a couple of things need to be fixed. You have to be able to call people out because not everything is perfect. I hope they listen to this with an open heart and not just, she's just saying this because of XYZ. I genuinely want them to succeed. I love this art form. I love wrestling, and I want it to succeed. And I want the people in it to succeed if they are genuine people. I want WWE to succeed. I want wrestling to flourish, and I don't want it to be a long forgotten Tartaran sport where in the old days we used to wrestle and it's folklore. I want nothing but the best, but I also want the change in the application to happen. With promise, with promise you made to be diverse. I want to see that. Not just with black people, I would love to see a Latino or Hispanic or more Asians. I feel like Asians and Indians don't get the love. They just don't. It's such a big gap. I hate the fact that I turn on the TV and it's the same old stuff over and over again. Hopefully they get the message. Me leaving honestly was not bad. There's no bad blood between TK and I. Between TK and I. I just don't like my peers being disputed. Okay, not peers, but I just don't like my peace being disputed. I didn't like certain things and other things that I will take to my grave. The diversity, the diversity, the diversity. That's what matters. So I had to pause, mute that for a second. So basically, what she's getting at is, she doesn't feel any ill will towards AEW or Tony Khan or anything like that. What I'm getting out of this is she just wants things to be better. She wants more representation to occur, in this company that's trying to grow and be a true alternative to WWE. And honestly, I don't blame her. I don't blame her for feeling that way. But again, I think what's going on is she's getting both WWE and AEW confused as being the same kind of promotion or being similar in structure when they're not. I mean, one's more sports entertainment focused over wrestling than the other, while the other is, more wrestling focused over sports entertainment. I mean, yeah, they have basically both of the same things, but one focuses on one over the other, and vice versa. And I think that's where she's getting confused. She doesn't, like I said earlier, she doesn't realize when you go to AEW, you're signing with a company that basically will help give you bullet points if you're involved in a major storyline or semi-major storyline. But but after giving you the bullet points, we'll say, okay, now go out and make it happen. They're giving you basically that creative freedom. And like I said, it sounds like to me that she's not somebody that's comfortable with creative freedom, or at least not to an extent to where she can write her own stories or help continue something down the line, even though she's proven that she can. Now, after saying this, of course, one of the big things that happened was Tony Khan had responded to the article by Fightful Wrestling, Fightful.com. This is what Tony Khan had to say, and this is what got people talking. This is what Tony Khan had to say, and I quote: "The top, the top two AEW execs are Brown, me, and Omega." And then he brings up the people that participate in the ring. Jade, Anthony Bowens, Mark Kassler, uh, Dante Martin, I think, Nyla Rose, Isaiah, and Mark Quinn, stating that they all won on TV this past month. He says that the TBS tournament has been very diverse, and he said he let Swole's contract expire because he felt her wrestling wasn't good enough. And here's the thing, that's where basically I think it got him in trouble, was when he just came out and said, look, I let a contract expire because her wrestling wasn't good enough. It wasn't because he's a racist. I don't see that or anything like that. But what he's saying is, look, what she did in the ring wasn't good enough to be around, which shows that Tony Khan is more of a wrestling entrepreneur than just sports entertainment. Like, he understands, the sports entertainment. You got to have variety and everything. He gets that, but what he's more about is the wrestling. He even said at one time he grew up on the Southern wrestling. So he's more adapted to applying that to make AEW successful than just, okay, here's sports entertainment, here's wrestling, here's sports entertainment, here's wrestling. He's more about the wrestling because he grew up on that structure. And he probably felt that, basically, and he felt basically that Swole just wasn't good enough as a wrestler to keep around. And, now I get how some people are feeling that him pointing out the fact that he and another exec are Brown, and that there's Jade, there's Anthony Bowens, Max Kassler, Dante Martin, Nala Rose, Isaiah and Mark Quinn, Private Party, and others. I get people feel like he shouldn't have done this to kind of prove a point of, look, I am about diversity. Look, all these people that you say I'm not giving an opportunity to won their matches in this past month. Look at our finals for the TBS tournament, stuff like that. So I get where people are coming from when they feel like he shouldn't have done that. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Tony Khan, believed he had the right. In his own personal opinion, he believed he had the right to put, Swole on blast because, he feels that all she's doing is trying to basically make herself look good because she wasn't given the opportunities that she felt she was promised in the long run. Now, there's a lot of people that came to Tony's defense. Leo Rush said apology at Tony Khan, and he tagged at Tony Khan and at AEW. Other people like Sean Dean came to his defense. Sean Dean, executive coordinator, says my official title on AEW behind the scenes, a black male in the office, giving many opportunities for minority talents as I can every single week. He says on the community team, raising awareness for inner city kids any chance I get. He says, and then he continues saying, the things we are expecting can and will happen. Trust the process. So, he's so Sean Dean here, Captain Sean Dean is saying, look, I'm black, and I see, I'm seeing everything that she's saying that there isn't. I'm seeing the diversity. He's basically saying, look, I'm one of the people that's responsible for giving these people those of minority and diverse of different diversities opportunities. It says, and then we got uh, Raphael Marfint. He said, quoted on Twitter, and he says, disappointed in the quote unquote diversity in AEW story from earlier today. I'm 100% Latino at AEW and Tony Khan. He says, okay, let me reread that. Raphael Moffin says, and I quote on his Twitter, disappointed in the quote unquote diversity in AEW story from earlier today. I'm 100% Latino. AEW and Tony Khan value and offer me autonomy as a company executive to make very big decisions on AEW's behalf. Have been blessed to work with multiple organizations. Trust me in my defense of AEW. So again, here's somebody else that's saying, look, I'm of a different race, different color, if you will, but I don't see any. I don't see that. Basically, he's saying just like what the other guy said. I don't see the lack of diversity in the company that Swole is saying. And then you had people like Powerhouse Hobbs um, came in online, and this is what he said. Powerhouse Hobbs, Will Hobbs, was part of Team Taz. This is what he said. He says, I have been featured in some heavy ass spots since being signed to AEW, as well as other minorities. Now TK has put me in spots at the right time that meant something. Punk, Christian Cage, Brian Cage, Hangman, and especially running in and saving Max. Continuing on, he quotes, the company has been there since the passing of my mother. Cody and QT, that's QT Marshall, played a tremendous part in getting me signed. Lastly, if you have an issue with someone, and let me see if I can bring this up on Twitter because you can't get all, everything when they just link it. He says, lastly, if you have an issue with someone, pick up the phone. So what he's saying to in his tweet in response and defense of Tony Khan at AEW, what he's saying to Big Swole is, hey, if you have a problem with the diversity, you know, if you have a problem with diversity, here's the phone. Pick it up. Call Tony Khan or call somebody in the hierarchy of AEW, and let them know your frustration. Let them know your frustration about the whole situation. So, being somebody that's half Mexican, half white, I can understand, like I said, where both sides are coming from. I really can. I can understand that. I can understand where Big Swole is coming from because she feels, hey, I've got this look, I stand out, you know, and I feel that, I should have equal opportunity like everybody else. And I can see where she's coming from. And I can see where people feel like Tony Khan may have crossed the line with what he said. But what I'm getting here, honestly, is somebody that feels like, hey, you know, they probably see someone like Jade and they're like, look, this girl's greener than I am, and yet she's getting pushed. She has a similar physique like I did. She's getting pushed. What about my opportunity? Where was mine? And maybe that's what she feels. Maybe she felt like she was lied to. Like maybe they promised, hey, you're going to be the AEW Women's Champion. You know, you'll be the one that will probably, beat Britt Baker for the title. And then all of a sudden they decided to change their mind and give it to possibly Thunder Rosa. And, she felt maybe disrespected. I don't know. But what I'm getting here is somebody that feels like, they weren't, that the promise that they were given for opportunities, mostly to be at the top, was broken. That's what I'm getting here. But here's the thing. Like I said, I believe she's getting both AEW and WWE mixed up. You know, she's getting them both mixed up because one is more different, than the other. One is more different than the other. Like I said, WWE puts sports entertainment first, wrestling second. Well, AEW puts wrestling first, sports entertainment second. And I think she's getting that confused. But hopefully in the future things will work out and maybe she will come back to AEW. And if she does, that'll be a great re-signing for them and maybe things, cooler heads will prevail and maybe Tony Khan will be like, okay, fine, you want me to prove that, I'm an equal opportunist to people, here, I'll give you the opportunity. And maybe she'll get it. Who knows? But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. For all we know, WWE, they might see this and say, maybe we can sign her and we'll put her to the top and shove it in AEW's face. Like, see, we took Big Swole away from you and we made her champion when you wouldn't. I wouldn't put it past WWE to do something like that, or any promotion that's not partnered or aligned with AEW. I wouldn't put it past them to do something like that. I wouldn't, just to stick it to All Elite Wrestling. But again, I see where she's coming from, but I also see where Tony Khan is coming from, and I also see those that came to TK's defense are coming from. And what I'm sensing here is sour grapes. Sour grapes, in a sense of, I believe, in my opinion, what happened is she was promised a top, an opportunity at the top as champion, as probably being the one that would knock off Britt, and then that was taken away. Plans changed, and she feels disrespected. And ever since, her program with Britt, her program with Diamante, all came to an end, she's felt like she's just lost in the shuffle. Sort of similar to how uh, Brian Cage's wife feels is going on with him. Just lost in the shuffle, and that maybe it's time for them to part ways. But we'll, we'll have to see what happens. What it seems like to me is the more of the in ring wrestlers that they sign, like a Danielson and a Punk and all that, you know, the more focus gets put on them, and the less focus gets put on the bigger wrestlers, unless they can really go in the ring as well. Unless along with the presence that they would have, they could really go in the ring. So, to me, I think that's what's going on. I think as people like Alex have said, she probably saw the writing on the wall that now AEW was becoming more of what they want to be, a wrestling company with bringing in all these in-ring wrestlers. Then basically being a company about opportunity for everybody. So, and maybe she just felt by noticing that she's like, I gotta go. This is not for me anymore. And that's probably what happened. And and basically, in my opinion, in my opinion, you know, I think what she needs to do, Big Swole, is just take a break from wrestling, mentally and physically get herself better, and not only get herself better physically and mentally, but when she's ready to come back, kind of look at all the options she's got. And what I see, honestly, in my opinion, like I said, is I think WWE is going to probably sign her just to stick it to AEW. I wouldn't be surprised. Um, but like I said, I see where she's coming from. I see where Tony Khan's coming from. I see where those defending Tony Khan are coming from. I see those where those feel that Tony Khan crossed the line are coming from. it's just a situation to where I think if Big Swole would have just kept it to herself, in a sense, maybe not say it in his or well, I'll put it this way: even if Big Swole wanted to say it like she did, or wanted to, and she did basically, I think what Big Swole should have done is reworded in a sense to where she'll get her point across, but not to the extent where Tony Khan, you know, everybody knows he's one of his weaknesses is he's subjectical, I should say, to responding online and on social media and putting people on blast, if not networks on blast, if they don't, agree with his outlook on things, especially when it comes to AEW. So, so honestly, if I was Big Swole, I would have reworded what I said. I would have said, okay, this is how I feel. This is kind of what I've seen, but that's just my opinion, and then that's it. You know, and just leave it at that. Not go on this kind of little, I wouldn't say tirade, but this whole kind of like behind the scenes expose the business kind of deal that she was doing by trying to basically say, hey, AEW, is not all sun and it's not all what's the word I'm looking for? What's the saying? It's not all you know sun and roses, if you know what I mean. They're not the promised land like they say they are, or that they seem to be in the eyes of fans. That there's more going on behind the scenes that need to be taken care of, need to be fixed and addressed before they become exactly what they say they are and what they're pretending to be in front of the eyes of fans. So, again, you know, I think if she wouldn't have gone in that direction and, like I said, reworded it and thought about what she was going to say and make it a lot, less exposy, if you will, I don't think Tony Khan would have, came out and blasted her the way he did, and he wouldn't get the criticism. Now, some would say that the reason Tony Khan put her on blast and the reason he's getting criticized for doing that is because she's speaking the truth, and he doesn't want people to know about what's really going on behind the scenes because it makes him look like, hey, I'm just a wrestling fan that's using my daddy's money to have my own wrestling promotion and show the big bad men up in WWE. This is how you do it. He doesn't want that because, the more that kind of gets exposed by people, if you will, the more it makes him look just like that, and the more it makes him look like less of a businessman, an owner, a CEO, and more of, hey, like I said, I'm a wrestling fan that has my daddy's money. I can, you know, and I have my own wrestling promotion. Now I'm going to show the big bads of WWE. This is how you do it. You know, nobody wants to be looked at in that manner if they have this kind of opportunity that Tony does. So, in my opinion, again, like I said, I see it from all angles. I can understand from all angles where they're coming from, and hopefully, in the end, things will be better. Things cooler heads will prevail, and Big Swole will be back. And if not, again, I can see WWE, being somebody that would, sign her to a contract and then push her to the top, even if she's ready or not. I could see them pushing her to the top, whether she's ready or not. Um, like I said, I could see, as I'm trying to say, as I'm also listening to the game. Um, but like I said, hopefully she'll be back in AEW. Cooler heads will prevail. But I can also, like I say, I can see WWE signing her to a contract, putting her on NXT 2.0, pushing her to the top, making her the champion there. And then when they feel, in their opinion, that she's ready, they'll put it up to SmackDown or Raw and push her there. So that I could see that happening. I can honestly see that happening. And if I'm AEW, I pray it doesn't. I pray it doesn't, and I do what I can to bring her back to the company and you know, um, have her work with us again, and maybe to make up for the lack of opportunity or lack of diversity. Maybe I give her a shot at the top and see if maybe she's gotten better to the point that, hey, maybe she is what we need. But to me, like I said, I understand where she's coming from with her situation and how she feels about it. I understand where Tony Khan's coming from, and those that came to his defense, feel about what she said. I also understand how fans feel about Tony Khan. People on the outside feel about Tony Khan doing this, and and unnecessarily going on blast when it comes to Big Swole and responding to her. I understand that. Um, but to me, like I said, I think what it is there's more to this, and in my opinion, I think what it is that she was promised an opportunity to be at the top, be the women's champ, and then plans changed and it just didn't sit well with her. And after her feud with Britt and then Diamante, she just went into what is known as obscurity, pretty much known as to a lot of people as AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, and she didn't like it. She didn't like it at all. So I think that's what happened. I think she was promised an opportunity to be the one that would become the champion, dethrone Britt, and then that was taken away because plans changed, and the rest is history. If you catch my drift, the rest is history. That's just my opinion. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on how this was handled on all ends of the spectrum? Who do you think is more in the right than the other? Let me know down below in the comments as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Check me out at my Teespring store for merchandise to purchase, especially to start off this new year. Also, check me out at BW Rose's Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. I'm close to 300, guys. And also, if you're listening to the podcast on Anchor.fm, listener support is activated. Also, if you are listening to it on a podcast affiliate that has video option as well, you can also watch the video of the podcast if you choose to do so instead of just listening to it. Also, check me out at BW Roses on VENMO. Check me out at patreon.com at BW Roses for the $1 to support me with $1, $3 tier. Also, check me out at Venmo at Brian-Walmer-2. But again, guys, let me know what your thoughts are on the situation. Who do you think is more in the right than the other? And I will talk to y'all later.